So Olinga, can you briefly tell us as what you do and what your job entails essentially?
Sure, thank you for asking. I have been retired, frankly, about over a decade now. But I do three roles of probably of relevance to this interview. One is I'm a visiting professor in blockchain at Birmingham City University. Secondly, I run and founded the largest think tank in the world on the movement of value called the Center for Citizenship, Enterprise and Governance. And we have around 165,000 members around the world. So it's a big think tank. And then, as a not-for-profit, I should add. And then thirdly, I sit on the Chinese government's Ministry of Commerce blockchain committee, which is the regulator for a $103 trillion market. 7 of us do that.
And you've mentioned the big topic there, blockchain, and we are living in quite remarkable times. We're all having to accelerate our new ways of thinking, doing business, even how we're living, basically. So with your work on blockchain, how do you see that technology contributing to improving lives in the current context?
I think we'll find that blockchain in itself and by itself is not going to be an individual contributor, but it will be amongst a group of technologies which we call the fourth industrial revolution technologies, which are blockchain, often called distributed ledger technology, DLT, AI, artificial intelligence, IoT, which is the Internet of Things, and 5G. And these are the four main thrusts of technology interventions we're seeing. And it's going to be the blend of these four that changes our behavior, nudges us. You know, originally, these things kind of came out from devising us into better retail, if you like, or nudge us into buying this and buying that, or voting things, you know, as we're seeing on Facebook and so on, you know, influencing. But the fact is, these things are powerful codes of ideology, and you can then move, you know, ourselves into living in a better way, in a more sympathetic way to each other, and enjoining society as a whole, but seamlessly without us having to transact. Here, you know, in the West, we are very transactional in everything we do. I pay you for this, you give me that. That's it, you know, whereas there are many other modes, and these technologies, these four technologies are moving that way. And indeed, you know, the Chinese government, which receives this fair amount of critique you know, these days, but they do believe because they have a population of 1.4 billion, and through the One Belt, One Road initiative, much larger responsibilities, they do believe in using these technologies as opposed to focusing on individual rights, which is always, you know, a big shock for people to see, because they say we have too many people. We have to look at people as data, and we have to use data to safeguard society. And so I think we're going to see blockchain sits within that group of technologies, and together they are going to completely transform our life. And things like, you know, even you know, people say, well, how do you mean ideology and code? What do you mean? I mean, for example, you know, with 5G, we're going to soon be having, you know, we can have a racist doorbell. You know, a doorbell can ring, you know, a black guy can ring that doorbell. I might be a racist. I don't hear it because the doorbell's AI goes, I know you're a racist, so you don't want to hear this stuff. So, you know, so it's important that we step up to this and ensure that good ideologies, you know, especially in line with the United Nations SDGs, you know, actually come to pass, because this is a momentous moment in our society right now.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think a topic that we've explored before is if technology is for good or for evil, and you hope it's the former, and we don't have too many
Right.
in the future.
That's absolutely the crux of it. Correct. And
Yeah.
we have actually, we're launching. We're in April now. We're launching this month a Center for Fourth Industrial Revolution Technologies at Birmingham City University. You know, where it's called the CCG BCU Center, And it is precisely that, is to ensure, how do we ensure these technologies combine to form a better society? Because it can easily be a racist doorbell, or a kettle that, can have a value, it can have an ideology in this new society. So we've got to protect ourselves.
Definitely. And we've obviously been speaking about the applications of blockchain and the technology that underpins it. So more specifically, we've spoken recently about the global coronavirus clearance certificate that you've been working on. Do you want to describe that and essentially what you've been doing on that?
So we have a organization as part of us called the Transnational Transparent Procurement Foundation. It's a not-for-profit also. It has about 40,000 members we have around the world, focused on procurement. And we had put together a white paper originally in December last year to say we will use blockchain to give us procurement transparency. Transparency. Our intention was transparency in terms of modern slavery of products, in things like sustainability, bribery, all sorts of things that affect procurement. In the blockchain certificate, to use tokenization to give a circular society through procurement, to change behavior through our supply chains. And however, this whole thing has overtaken us, and we had around 300 of our international retailers come to us of our membership, and including things like the Africa-China Council, which is a huge business council, and say, actually, forget that. We want a solution for coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
We want a certificate that transparently shows the tracking of products, of people, of organizations, or projects and processes based around coronavirus, because that is a risk we're trying to mitigate right now. And so we then shifted our emphasis for our first blockchain solution to be the coronavirus clearance certificate. That gives that entire transparency chain, a tracking, because what blockchain does, blockchain is an instrument to use for trust. We are now with coronavirus in a society where trust is a major problem. We don't trust countries. We don't trust each other. We have to stand apart from each other. You don't know what the guy's carrying, etc. We don't stock products. Is this going to affect us if we open it, if we touch it, etc. So it's a crisis of trust. And blockchain is like a massive ledger in the sky. It's like a massive Excel spreadsheet in the sky. It shows transparently where it's been, when it was touched, by whom, etc., etc. And we can do that. Combined with that, we have added a metric, around a metric which we have been working, in governments for about a decade now, called the social earnings ratio. And what it is a one-number metric that represents both financial value or risk and non-financial value like health or risk. Because in the end, through supply chains around the world and logistics and purchasing and procurement, they need a simple way to say our risk profile is here, this product or this person or this organization risk is up here, we can't use this right now. Later on, when one goes down, or our risk profile increases, we can accept this product and put it into our supply chain. So it's a simple certificate with a one-number metric that tracks all this, and it came from as a result of the supply chain, major multinationals asking us to do this. That's what we're focused on right now.
I think it's a very interesting point as well, just going back to what you said about this coronavirus pandemic is happening during a time of when people are not so clued up on who's trustworthy, politicians-wise, business leaders, etc. So tech can sort of be a bit of an antidote with that because it's very transparent and people know what it is exactly.
That's correct. I agree. And this is a good example of technology for good, isn't it? It's a technology not for nudging us into buying something, or voting for someone. It's actually for a better, safer society. And we need to focus on this.
Definitely. So we've spoken a little bit about how blockchain's being used now, and in particular with the certificate. But looking towards the future, how do you see the most important or significant application of blockchain being in the near future?
Okay, so I think it is in three areas. One is indeed procurement, because this is big amounts of money. It's the biggest instrument to change the world. Procurement, it is huge amounts of money, and let's use that money to influence, nudge our society into better ways and better purchases and better organization behavior. And so that's one focus we have, and I explained to you we have that foundation. The second one, um, we have another foundation called Values Enablers, and it's funded from the Middle East. And imagine a bank that can not only bank, and this is very relevant, of course, your impact investment forum. A bank not only banks things like hard assets, like money, cash, diamonds, land, but also non-financial assets. It's like love, happiness, hope, and generosity. And you think, wow, what? Don't these things matter? Aren't these a valuable asset too? And you go, absolutely. So a bank that can actually trade these two kinds of assets, intangible and tangible assets, equally. And this is of particular relevance to countries like the Middle East, where, and I guess, where you go, well, we have financial assets, they're the top 3% of the world, but they're not in the top 20% of soft power in the world. And they go, well, we're not just money, we're not just oil, we are actually other things we can provide society, and so I think banking sector blockchain is going to move it into a much more greater appreciation of, we talk about impact investing, but we actually don't have any way to trade between them. There's impact, and then there's investing. And we go, actually, this is a way I think blockchain can intermediate between these two, impact and investing. And then the third area we're focusing largely on is 5G. See, 5G is not just fast 4G, it's not just that we can do great video on 4G, it's actually multi-layered. So 5G has layers of code and layers of data transmission. And it means it can act a lot more quickly to our immediate environments. And it's the enabling infrastructure that makes blockchain, makes Internet of Things, and makes AI actually real to our individual lives. And it's going to be everywhere. Everything will be 5G enabled. So, what we're looking at is, to ensure we can put in there ideology in code into everything around us. We effectively can live our lives with a bubble of our own values around us. And again, that can be bad. We can have our KKK bubble around us, or we can have the values that are commensurate with our own values, that we move around and go, this is the world I want to trade. I want to buy things which are valuable. Or valuable to me, maybe more green. I want to trade things. I want to make life choices, things which resonate with my life. So 5G is the other thing that blockchain enables us, because what it allows us is the use of a token inside a 5G data structure to move value between, I have values, I have a value of let's say sustainability or anti-slavery, but I want to trade that right now. I want to ensure that these products I buy is of the same. So it allows different kinds of trade going on within our own immediate bubble. So those are three technologies we think we're focusing on. We've got 3 centers, research centers, big each, and well funded with huge partners. I mean, big global brand names, which people will be shocked at, and we'll be releasing that information later on this month.
Well, it sounds like an exciting future, and we can sort of be a bit more hopeful with using technology, it seems, which is good. Well, thank you so much for sharing all your expertise on blockchain and giving us a bit of a slither of hope in using tech for the future, like I've said. So, you know, most of us, a lot of us are working from home now, and sort of trying to remain sane, and drinking coffee helps. But is there any other tips? Is there any other tips that you've got in remaining productive at home, keeping sane, ensuring good mental well-being, anything like that?
Yes, I do. You know, one of the things that strikes me, I've been to many great Informa FundForum conferences. You know, I've spoken at a lot, and I'm always grateful for the opportunity.
Mhm.
And they're great places. But the one thing that always amazes me is in the dialogues and speeches that are given, that impact investors are generally financiers who are in that sector. And tomorrow, impact investors can now not be impact investors. They can be investors managing funds, investing in military gear or some other things. So in their individual lives, I was at one Fund Forum conference in the green room, not the green room, you know, the room where all the speakers sit. And I was overhearing some guy was saying, yeah, he's not including my military investments into this impact investment. I was thinking, wow, you know, and it's really unfair because I can't hit my bonus, you know. And I thought, wow. So, and it occurred to me often when I hear people say, for example, we're investing in homes or shortages of homes, you know, social housing, which is
Mhm.
great.
Mhm.
But when I ask further, rarely do I find these individuals in their own lives are actually involved in homelessness,
Mhm.
or investing in care or mental health, but rarely are the individuals involved themselves at the individual level. So my parting comment with you is that this has given us a time to, at home, to reflect in safety, but to reflect on the mismatch between our lives in impact investing, and our lives as a social being. And that if we're going to invest in that area, we should invest wholly.
Mhm.
We should invest, as a person, not just our money. And it gives us a better appreciation of it, and if you don't touch grief, if you don't in our individual lives touch hurt and grief, then you have not really made an impact yourself. You've just shifted somebody else's money. I I have done many years of emergency fostering, and as a carer or helping people with mental health, and I have absolutely transformed my life. I have gone from a typical corporate animal a decade ago to becoming, the happiest being I have been since the age of 11, and I'm 60 this year.
Mhm.
And that transformation is available to all of us. This is a great time to reflect. Pick up the phone people who you wouldn't normally have phoned, and see how you are, and just touch society. That's it. Thank you.